Hello students and welcome back to Sri Gyan Manji Vidyapith, wherein we are learning the subject of social science for standard 10th. Students, we are going at quite a slow pace as we have just started with the new academic year, that is 2021 to 22. We have started with the first chapter of social science. Let us take a quick recap of what we have learned so far in this chapter. Students, this is the sixth lecture for the chapter. We are going in quite slow pace as many of you might have gone into vacation mode, right? Although the conditions outside, they are quite adverse, and so we are restricted and we have to stay at home, right? So please utilize this time to enhance the capacity with which you learn, study, memorize, remember, so that it is helpful in this very, very important standard 10. So far we have learned in chapter number 1, that is Heritage of India. Let's do a quick revision. First of all, we learnt about the summary of the chapter. We have already discussed about this point that each and every chapter will have a summary which helps you to summarize the chapter very, very quickly, because many important points that are in the chapter, many important topics that are in the chapter will be found in the summary. Summary helps you to do a very, very quick revision when we are giving that 6-monthly test or WRTs for 2-3 chapters, or half-yearly test wherein half of the book is asked, or the final exams, PSTs, WSTs, and the final exams where the complete syllabus, all the chapters are asked. Yes, so it becomes very important. Please again go through the summary so that you know you are very well aware about all the topics, subtopics, main points of the chapter. Next, the chapter starts with a shloka, that is shloka which is given in the Vishnu Puran, about the extent of India, from the Himalayas in the north to the Indian Ocean in the south, and from Bay of Bengal to the Arabian Sea in the west. The extent, that much part which is in between all these 4 directions, that land is known as Bharat, and the people residing in it are known as Bharatiya. Translation and meaning of the shloka you should be well aware of. Next is why India is famous for peace and prosperity. Shloka meaning and translation 2 marks. Same way, famous for prosperity and peace, that is also 2-mark question. Mutual exchange has made heritage rich. Mutual exchange, lots of other tribes, lots of other communities came from outside, settled in India throughout the ages. We are not only talking about those tribes that came in ancient India. Yes, we are talking about those attackers also who came to India, settled in India, though we are not going to discuss that in this chapter. But whether it is Alexander the Great, or whether they were the Mongols at the end, just before the Britishers came, they also came to India for the purpose of ruling. So they came over India, but then they settled. Many, Alexander's army also, lots of people, they settled in India, right? So in this way, they loved this country because of the peace that was available in this country, what the land gave to them, and because of that they became prosperous. They never wanted to leave that. Now when they settled over here, mutual exchange is certainly going to happen, and because of that mutual exchange, our heritage became more richer, because we already had a culture, custom, tradition, religion, all those things over here, plus the outsiders gave lots of things to us. They also adopted lots of things from us. So in that way, in that mutual exchange, our culture which was already there got added up with another culture, custom, tradition, and all that, and that made our culture more richer. We were the people who realized, because India is known for its religious attachment and religious thinking. So we realized Sat, Chit and Anand. Sat means the truth. Chit is that inner conscience, inner peace that we have. And because of Sat and Chit, we attained Anand, that is joy. Next, people contributed with their intellectuality, ability, talent and skill. Yes, people from not only India, when they settled in India, they also became Bharatiya, they also became Indians. Now, they work over here, yes, with their intellectuality, with their ability, talent and skill. Yes, they are going to do something new, they are going to modify something, they are going to change something. In this way, what they do new, they pass it on to the new generation, and so the next generation also adds something new to it to make it more beautiful or to give a certain change to it. So people's contribution throughout this ages passed on from generation to generation, that is the contribution of the people. Next, we learnt about the heritage of India divided into two, that is natural heritage and cultural heritage. We first learned about natural heritage, what all things are included in natural heritage. Then we saw that there are 4 parts. To broadly understand natural heritage, we divide it into 4 parts: landscapes, rivers, vegetation and wildlife. Each of them, including the question of natural heritage, is 2 marks question, right? Whole of our question paper, board question paper, is divided into, we learned that in the very first lecture, that whole of the paper is divided into 4 ways: objectives, subjective, right? In objective, we know lots of things are asked in different manners. For example, match the following, fill in the blanks, multiple choice questions, one line answers. All that is included in objective. Now coming to subjective, we will have 2 marks, 3 marks and 4 mark questions. That is section B, section C and section D. In 2 marks question, you have to write minimum of 4 points. There are quite a lot of questions that carry weightage of 2 marks, but they have just 2 points or 3 points, but the thickness of the points also counts. They might be cut, or they are simply definitions, right? So you should be able to make the answer or define it in such a way that whole of the question or whole of the word definition terminology is properly defined over there. Yes, there might be 2 definition. For example, natural heritage, cultural heritage. You define both of them properly, then that is also 2 marks. So minimum 4 points should be there. If 4 points are not there, 3 points are there, then also thickness of the points should be there, meaningful sentences should be there, content should be there. So minimum 4 points, maximum can go up to 6 points. That is 2 marks, answering 2 marks. When we come to 3 marks, then if there are 3 marks, then somewhere the points should be having a total of 8 to 9 points. So 9 points minimum, can go up to 10 or 11 points, not more than that. Yes, question having 4 marks weightage, minimum there should be more than 13-14 points. Yes, can go up to 15 or 16, not more than that, but you should be able to satisfy the complete answer. Yes, wherever there are subtopics may have some points, so this should be defined in that way. Yes, that is how we learn to answer the long answers, that is long essay type answers. That is 4 marks weightage will be quite long, right? So in this way, if we are considering about the weightage of marks per chapter, then for example, chapter number 1, according to the earlier bifurcation, we had 3 marks weightage for chapter number 1, which was increased this year because last year because of the pandemic situation. So weightage may have changed because of the circumstances, but otherwise this chapter, for example, has a weightage of 3 marks. So there also it is defined that a 2 mark question will be asked from this chapter and 1 objective will be asked. So that way we are very clear. So all the small questions pertaining to this chapter having a weightage of 2 marks or 4 points should be thoroughly done. But then we are also giving WRDs, where from, if I take only chapter number 1 for WRD, then I will have 2 mark question, 3 mark question and 4 mark question. So if you have prepared well all the 2 mark question, whether I club 2 or more questions and make a 3-mark question, club 2 or 3 questions and make a 4-mark question, you should be able to answer. You do it this way or that way, at the end you have to answer all the questions, right? So that way prepare it. Cultural heritage, we understood the definition, whatever man creates with his own intellect or tact, wisdom, etc., talent, skill, etc., that is called cultural heritage. So that's the definition, understanding what all things are included in cultural heritage. So for example, places are included, lots of famous places, lots of temples, etc. Historically important places, for example, Dandi March, Sabarmati Ashram, these places are linked with the freedom movement, then they are also included in cultural heritage. Discoveries that lots of scientists, lots of people in India have made, yes, in different fields, that is also included in our heritage, because we made it and then we used it and we also gave it to the world. So that is included in our heritage. For example, zero. Yes, we discovered zero. We found out ways to use it, how to use it, and it was very beneficial to us. So we passed on that knowledge to the world. So that discovery also becomes part of the cultural heritage. Important tourist place. For example, people go to see Khajuraho temples or the Taj Mahal or the Red Fort in Delhi or the lots of temples in South India. So in this way, the important tourist place, because people go there with a reason, because lots of history is attached with it. Yes, and if you take the temples or the tombs, they are made, they are constructed using the talent, skill of the people, yes, to beautify it, and that is why it becomes part of the cultural heritage. Then we learned the main important point, that is fairs of Gujarat. Now students, fairs of Gujarat, at least 15 fairs are mentioned, name of the fairs are mentioned, name of the place, it will be divided into two, the town or the city or the place where it is held, and the district in which it is falling. The last item in the table is the tithi or the time at which the fair is held. There are 15 fairs, and this is complete objective or complete objective, because it can be asked in match the following. Yes, for example, Mera Dadar fair, it will be written in part A, we have to match it accordingly, which place or which tithi, whatever is mentioned in part B. So in this way, match the following. It can be also asked, yes, that Bhadarvi Poonam is the following fair is, or the dash fair is held at Bhadarvi Poonam. Fill in the blank. You will have 3 options at the end. It can be also asked as one-liner. Which fair is held at Dang? Then Dang Darbar. Answer is Darbar. So that way, in any way, but objectives can be created from fairs of Gujarat. It will not be asked in 2-mark, 3-mark or 4-mark, but it can certainly be asked in objectives. Then we came to the most important part of our chapter, that is India, land and people. Yes, we were learning about the different tribes that came from outside and settled in India. We are more interested from where they came, that is the first point. The route that they used to reach India, that is the second point. The third very important point for you to remember is their physical features, because people were already living in India. Their physical features were quite different from those coming from outside. So we have to mark them out with the help of physical features. Yes, not what they brought. After all these thousands of years, we don't know what they brought with them. Yes, whether they brought a trunk or a suitcase or a thela, brought some idols, yes, or brought some baskets, or brought some food. We are not interested in that, right? So we are more interested in what they look like, because from that, today people are living that if the physical features match, then we can say that those people who came outside settled over here, and the physical features are found in these parts of the country. So first thing is from where they came, because that makes your answer. Each and every, most of these tribes, they are a 2 marks answer, except Drabidian Aryans, which are 3 and 4 marks answer also, right? Quite long. So we are interested in the first thing, from where they came. The name, of course, the name of the tribe, from where they came, which route they used to enter India. After coming to India, which are the places they settled down. Okay, then comes the physical features, and the most important point is their contribution, because when they came to India, they brought with them their ideas, culture, custom, tradition, religion, gods and goddesses, right? So all these things, language, script, they brought with them together, their talent, their skill, their way of making a house, or their way of living, style of living, their whatever things that they brought, they know how to make. All these things they brought to India. So their contribution to the culture of India, right? So these four points you should remember and try to put them in your answer. It is given in a sequence. Of all of them are given in the sequence, right? So let us take again revise what should be included in your answer when particular tribe is asked. You need to describe it, you need to define it, you need to answer. Yes. So first thing is, which tribe are we talking about? From where, that means what was their origin and from where they came to India, which route they followed to reach India, their physical features, and the last point is their contribution to the Indian culture. We learned two of the tribes. First one is Negrito tribe, which came all the way from East South Africa. So the Negrito tribe people, they came all the way from East South Africa. We also know that means their origin is there, right? Now which route they took? From the eastern coast, they kept on going. They came up to River Nile, Egypt. On the upper part of the Arabian countries, they entered Iraq, then Iran. After the Iran border touches with today's Pakistan. In those days, that was simply India, right? So that is the route they took. When they came to River Indus, then they crossed it and spread, because then whole of India is there available to them. So they spread all over India. So this is their origin, that is East South Africa, the route that they took. Next, we come to the physical features. That also we learned. They were short in height, they had black skin color and curly hair. These are the physical features. Next, we learnt about the Australoid tribe that came from the lower part of China, that is lower part of Asia, just below China. They came all the way from there up till Myanmar. After Myanmar, we have our country starts. Myanmar is a different country in the earlier days known as Burma, right? So from Myanmar they entered into India. If you see the map, then after Myanmar, first state of India that touches the boundary is Assam. So they must have entered into Assam and followed the route all up till West Bengal, Bihar, Orissa. These are the places. So their origin, Southeast Asia. Their route, of course, from Southeast Asia they came all up to Myanmar, entered India. So their origin, their route, their physical features, they were shorter in height, but then they had a broader head. Yes, again the skin color is quite dark. These are the physical features. And then some contribution, because when they came, that time they were already using clay utensils, they were wearing cotton cloth, right? So these are the things that they brought, the knowledge they brought to India and gave it to the people of India, right? So this is their contribution to India. So in that way, whenever we are describing about any tribe, we got to give four answers. The first is their origin, second is the route that they took to enter India, third is their physical features, and fourth is their contribution to India. Now let us go ahead with the other tribes that came to India. Remember, Negrito is the first tribe that we learned, Australoid is the next tribe, that second tribe that we learned. Today we are going to go ahead with our lecture. Next tribe is the Drabidians. Now Drabidians, they were called the initial residents of India. They were here since the Stone Age, right? So they did not come from anywhere outside. We learned in the introduction of India, Land and People, that evolution of human being. That means human beings came into existence at two places in the world. One is, of course, Africa. The second is India. Both the places human being came into existence at the same time. Then evolution happened, development happened, that we call it as the primitive stage, then the stone age, right? Since then Dravidians have been living in India. So originally Dravidians belong to India because they did not come from outside. They were found in India. They came into existence in India, right? So they are called the original residents of India. And they were the direct descendants of the Stone Age civilization. They came into existence. Human being came into existence, right? We know them as primitive men. From primitive men, they came to the Stone Age, and from Stone Age to the Indus Valley civilization that way. So they are the direct descendants of the Stone Age, from Stone Age to Indus Valley civilization. Whatever number of millions of years or hundreds of years it took, we consider that as correct. They stayed, they were found over here, they existed as primitive men, they existed during the Stone Age, and they were also found during the Indus Valley civilization. So they were called the direct descendants of the Stone Age civilization, and they were creators of Mohenjo-Daro culture. Who are the creators of the Mohenjo-Daro? Objective question. Then single line. Dravidians are called the creators of Mohenjo-Daro. Yes, even though we have not yet touched upon the topic of Mohenjo-Daro, but you have certainly learnt about it in 6th and 7th standard also. Mohenjo-Daro, one of the remains that we found that belong to Indus Valley civilization, and approximate time of existence is at least 5,000 years ago, right? So when we discovered Mohenjo-Daro, excavated that site, and we found the remains of Mohenjo-Daro, the people living over there, they were the Dravidians, who were the descendants of the Stone Age, right from that age to the Indus Valley civilization. Now, the tribes which came from north survived with their language and cultural features. Later on, they were only called as Dravidians. In between that time, lots of tribes might have come from the north and settled near Indus Valley civilization, but at the end, when we come to Indus Valley civilization, all the people living in Mohenjo-Daro and various other Indus Valley civilization sites, Mohenjo-Daro Harappan sites, all of them simply they are known as Dravidians, because lots of tribes may be existing at the same time, but put together because they are all original descendants of, and Dravidians were in quite a huge number. So the tribes which came from north survived with their language and cultural features. Later on, they were known only as Dravidians. Whole of that we put it in a single group, that is Dravidians. Next, Dravidians gave the concept of mother as goddess and father as god. Now, very important word is concept. Now, what do we understand by concept? According to our customs, tradition, even today, when early in the morning when we come, when you people leave the school, many families have the habit that children should touch the feet of elders and then go to school. Whenever you are going on a journey, you touch the feet of elders, take their blessings. This is a custom tradition followed all over India. Whichever state you go, whichever language they might be having, whichever custom, tradition, religion they might be following, they do the same thing. Children, when they are married, they bow, touch the feet of the elders. It is same everywhere in India. Yes, that is. Now, this, what we are going to learn is the concept. In those days, they might not be having any gods and goddesses. But today if we look at the excavation, the remains of the Indus Valley civilization, we find lots and lots of figures and statues of gods and goddesses. So somewhere, sometime in the past, something must have started which resulted in the idol of god or goddess. Now what was that something? The children, they started treating their parents as gods and goddesses. Mother, they loved their mother, they worshipped their mother. They loved their father, they worshipped their father. Mother and father dies, but children do not forget them. We never are able to forget our parents. So what happens is, they made an idol of their father, their mother, and slowly started worshipping them. Their children, the next generation took that idol as standard. The male idol started being worshipped as god, the female idol started getting worshipped as goddess. Then they should have names, right? So slowly the idol of the mother as goddess Parvati, and the male god as Lord Shiva. Yes, so mother as goddess, father as a god. These 4-5 words are underlined over here. That is the concept. That is the concept. Somewhere, sometime, something must have started which followed through generation, and slowly the idea of worshipping the female goddess as Parvati and the male god as Shiva came into existence. Yes, the idol of Shiva at that time, it's not given over here in the text also, it was the idea of, the name was Pashupatinath. The name of Lord Shiva was Pashupatinath. Today also we call Shiva as Pashupatinath. There is a whole big temple of Pashupatinath in Nepal. That's a Hindu state, a Hindu country, right? So the idea must have started something, that is why it's given over here concept. Yes, that is the concept. They started treating their mother, the idol of mother, as goddess, the idol of father as god. Slowly the idea of worshipping gods and goddesses started, where the goddess became Parvati, the god became Shiva. So Drabidians gave us the concept of mother as goddess and father as god. So the thought of Parvati and Shiva as mother and father developed. The next generation took up the cue. Yes, the next generation took up those idols as gods and goddesses, and from then onwards, that idea, that thought developed. The tradition of worshipping nature is the gift of the Dravidians. They not only started the tradition of idol worshipping, they not only started the thought of Parvati and Lord Shiva, goddess Parvati and Lord Shiva, worshipping them in the form of god and goddess, in the form of idol or a statue, but the tradition of worshipping nature is the gift of Dravidians. Now, how do we understand that? Yes, when men evolved, then human beings came into existence, and after millions of years of that, they were with the nature, because and no man-made thing was available. They came into existence at that time. Whatever was created by God was nature, and they were living in the nature. Yes, they couldn't understand lots of things of nature, right? Why floods came, they did not understand. Yes, why clouds came, they did not understand. Why it rained so heavily, they did not understand. Why it didn't rain at all, they didn't understand. Why the plants dried up, they did not understand. Why no food was available, they didn't understand. Yes, how the animals reproduced, that also they don't. So lots of things about nature they were not aware. Yes, because that scientific attitude was yet not cultivated properly, that thoughts and ideas, and to back it with something solid like some scientific proofs, that thing also was lacking. But they were quite afraid of all these natural elements like fire, earth, mountains, water, wind. So slowly they started worshipping these natural elements of the earth, and they termed it as gods and goddesses. You go any civilization you take, they have these natural elements worshipped as gods and goddesses. Whether you go to Indian civilization, that is Indus Valley civilization, you go to the Egyptian civilization, you go to the Roman and Greek, whatever civilization, even if you go to the Chinese civilization that existed 5,000, 10,000 years ago, you will find the same thing everywhere throughout, because those days people were not able to understand the nature. They feared of lots of elements of nature, and they worshipped lots of elements of nature. They worship nature as well. For example, today we worship some of the trees. For example, people and the banyan tree, we worship them. That's nature. Yes, we call the rivers as Lokamata. We worship them. Yes, take a holy dip in it. At the same time, plants like basil, tulsi, they are also worshipped. Many of the wildlife, they have been dedicated as vehicles of gods and goddesses. Yes, so they are given equal respect and status. So the tradition of worshipping nature is the gift of the Drabidians. Yes, if we have wind god in India, there is a wind god in the Roman culture, there is a wind god in Greek culture. Everywhere there is a sun god, whether it is the Greek culture, whether that is Indian culture. We also have Surya Devta, we have Pavan Devta, same way they also have. We have Varun Devta, they also have wind god, they also have god of water, right? So in this way, each and every civilization all over the world, there was a tradition. So the Dravidians, they were living over here since even before the Stone Age. So they started worshipping. They gave us the tradition of worshipping nature. That is a gift of the Dravidian culture. The tradition of worshipping with dhoop, that is incense stick, deep, that is lamp, and arti are considered to be the gifts of the Dravidians. Now that is a component of the concept that we received. Now what was the concept? They treated their mother as God, mother as goddess, father as God. Slowly the thought of Shiva and Parvati came into existence. Now you are worshipping them. Right? So ways and methods and means to worship them were found out of that. Yes, whenever we pray to God, whenever we worship God, we should have a small diya. Yes, that is the custom and tradition. Today, it has been following all since the ages. So we have deep, that is the lamp. Then the incense stick came, that is dhoop, incense stick. Yes, we offer scented agarbatti jo aati hai, right? So some scented, some to make the atmosphere pure, divine, we use that. So that method was found. And arti, at the end of worship, the worshipping should always end with arti, a song or a hymn that is dedicated to the god or goddess. So that tradition was started by the Dravidian, and it's a very valuable gift passed on to us, considered to be the gift of the Dravidians. Yes, you say, what is the contribution? These are the things that they contributed. Besides nature and animal worshipping, etc., are their great features. Besides nature, besides not only nature, they had gods and goddesses. They also did animal worshipping. We do it even today. That is the custom and tradition followed all since the Indus Valley Civilization. Yes, cow, we consider it holy. Even today, a cow is worshipped. Yes, prayers are offered. Yes, lots of animals who have been given the status of vehicles of God, they are worshipped, right? So, animal worshipping was also done. That is the great feature of the Dravidians. Now, original deities of Dravidians have been accepted by the Aryans. Yes, we will learn in the next subtopic when we learn about the tribes of the Aryans. Aryans came on later. After the Indus Valley Civilization was full on its full peak. Yes, at that time the Aryans came. Aryans came from outside India, right? So, original deities, now when they came, they mingled and mixed up with the Dravidian population, where the Aryans were more in number because the influx of the migrants kept on increasing, and more number of Aryans started migrating into India. Yes, the Dravidians, who were quite huge in number, but that huge number was quite small now in comparison with the Aryans, right? So, the Dravidians were pushed back. They left that area because now that there was a question of survival, right? Of their customs, tradition, their unity, their community. So, they stepped back from that area and started going down to the south of India, and today we find the Dravidian group settled over there in 4 states, that is Andhra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Now, whatever deities, the gods and goddesses, all the things that they worshipped, the Aryans did not just discard them. They, on the opposite, they adopted whatever deities were worshipped by the Dravidians. Yes, they did not abandon them, they did not discard them, they didn't devalue them. On the opposite side, they valued it and they accepted the gods and goddesses. Because when Aryans came, they also must be having their gods and goddesses and deities and their way of worshipping, etc. But they accepted whatever the Dravidians had left behind. That's a very, very good thing, right? That the gods and goddesses that the Dravidians follow were not discarded by the Aryans. So, original deities of Dravidians have been accepted by the Aryans, and then they were re-established because of the influence of their culture. They were re-established by them as a god of culture with pace of time. Now, Aryans had their own gods and goddesses. They accepted the gods and goddesses of the Dravidians also. So, there was a very fine mixture which we call culture. Under the tremendous influence of the north, tremendous influence, that means we just talked about it, that the influx, that means the coming of the Aryans did not stop and their numbers kept on increasing. There were lots of sites like Mohenjo-Daro of the Indus Valley Civilization and the Harappan Civilization. Yes, they were small towns and cities. But from the outside, the Aryans, the other tribes that came, the influx was so heavy that the Dravidians had no other choice but to retreat. So, under the tremendous influence of the north, Aryan culture was deeply internalized by Dravidians, hence intercaste marriages took place. But before they started retreating and going back towards the south of India, something else happened. When the Aryan tribe started coming to India, when they crossed the Indus Valley Indus River and settled in different parts of the west and north, there was a mixture of two races, that is Dravidian and the Aryans, and they lived together. They had their own differences, might be having, right, but they lived together, mingled with each other, exchanged their culture, and the best way to internalize, that means to become one with the already living, is a very, very important term, that is intercaste marriages. When intercaste marriages happen, then genes get changed. Yes, Because the Aryans, they are fair in color, whereas the Dravidians, they are having dark color of skin. Yes, so Aryans, many Aryans boys, they married with the Dravidian girls. Many Dravidian boys, they married with the Aryan. That is called an intercaste marriage. And because of that, when an Aryan boy marries a Dravidian girl, the Dravidian girl comes along with the Dravidian culture. Same way, when an Aryan girl marries a Dravidian boy, she brings with her the rich culture that came from Europe. So that intermingling brought beautiful results. Yes, and both the culture became one. Now please understand this. Aryan culture was deeply internalized, because when that type of intercaste marriages happen, they are internalized. That means now husband and wife might be from different tribes. One might be Aryan, one might be Dravidian, but now they are living together, so the culture is going to get mixed. So that was affected. So intercaste marriages took place, and that helps in Indianizing the Aryans, because the Dravidians are already Indian. Who has to now become Indian? The Aryans. So they got Indianized by intercaste marriage. Dravidians, very, very important point, and I'll mark this as special. Dravidians had matriarchal system of family. Now we have two things, maternal uncle and paternal uncle, that you know, right? Maternal uncle means an uncle belonging to the mother's side. Paternal uncle means an uncle belonging to the father's side. Father ke brother, what do we tell him or call him? We call him paternal uncle. Same way, mother also has a brother whom we call mama. In English it remains the same, uncle, for both the sides. But then father's side, it is paternal uncle. Mother's side, it is maternal uncle, right? So we know two things, maternal and paternal. In India today, if we see, we have a patriarchal system of family where the male is the head of the family. Then that is patriarchal system of family, whereas Dravidians, they had matriarchal system of family. That means they had mother as head of the family. Today, who is the head of your family? It is the father. Earlier, who was the head of the family? Grandfather. Grandfather died. At that time, grandmother was still alive, but now your father becomes the head of the family. Grandmother, quite old, still has total control of the family. Everybody does as she says, but that is out of respect. Who is the head of the family? Who runs the house? It is the father. So we follow the patriarchal system of family today, but in those days, Dravidians had matriarchal system of family. I hope this point is quite clear, where mother is the head of the family. Dravidians progressed a lot in different crafts and art, like building of boat, raft, weaving, spinning, dyeing, and this should be in your answer. Now, we have, now mind you, if we are talking about Dravidians, if we tell them as the direct descendants of the Stone Age, if we call them the creators of Mohenjo-Daro, a civilization, Indus Valley civilization, which is considered 5,000 years old, if we call it that, then lots of things must be discovered by them. They must have found lots of ways to make things, yes, and carry on with their life in a very efficient manner. So they progressed in a lot of different crafts, art like building of boat, raft, because they were living near the Indus River and lots of the tributaries, yes, and they had reached up till certain places in Gujarat also. Over there in the north, they had 5 tributaries of Indus rivers, and we have Ganga, Yamuna. So in this way, they lived on the river banks. It was very necessary for them to start building, or they have the technical know-how of building boat, raft. Then lots of cotton was produced. So weaving, spinning, dyeing, making of the cloth, whatever is necessary in that process, that was done, because we know they wore cotton cloth. Due to dominance of the Aryans now we already discussed that the Aryans came in huge number and they started dominating that area, taking control and power of that area. So they shifted to South India and settled over there. When they saw themselves in danger, when they saw their tribe in danger, yes, they started shifting towards the south of India, and they settled in South India. As a result, today we can see people speaking Dravidian family languages like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada and Malayalam. Yes, Tamil is spoken in Tamil Nadu, Telugu is spoken in Andhra Pradesh, Kannada is spoken in Karnataka, and Malayalam is spoken in Kerala. Apart from that, if you go to Sri Lanka, because people, where did people from Sri Lanka came from? Yes, originally some people crossed the channel and went to Sri Lanka. So we have another Sinhali language over there which quite matches with the Dravidian group of family, but because we are talking only of India, we will consider 4 languages: Tamil, Telugu, Kannada and Malayalam in Dravidian group of languages, because Sri Lanka is another country, we are not going to talk about it, right? So this is a pic of how the Dravidian people look like. You can see the skin color is still dark, yes, and they are present in the 4 states of the South India. Next tribe we come upon is Mongoloids. Mongoloid originally came from the country called Mongolia, which is a sandwich country in between China and Russia. Yes, Mongolia is the famous country, famous area, famous region from where we have the famous conqueror Genghis Khan, who not only mobilized the complete different tribes living in Mongolia, grouped them and started one of the biggest attacks in the history of the world. He was known as a big conqueror, yes, and from there he came all the way through Afghanistan and attacked India also, Genghis Khan, right? So that is that origin of Mongoloid tribe. The people of Mongoloid tribe came to India from North China, right? So from the north. If we go in the north, then the Himalayas, the direct country which falls to after Tibet, China, we have Mongolia. So from there, and settled down. So because they came directly from the North China, they came in the southern direction. That is, they must have reached Tibet, and then crossed Tibet, entered Nepal, and from Nepal it's quite easy to enter India. So they are found settled in North Assam, Sikkim, Bhutan, West Bengal, etc. Right? They came from that, direct from North China to Tibet, Nepal, and North China via Tibet settled down at north of Assam, Sikkim, Bhutan, West Bengal, etc. They gradually Indianized them. Now, people were already living over there also, right? So, they have to Indianize them. And how do we Indianize? By intercaste marriage, right? So, they gradually Indianized themselves with passage of time. These people, they were not quite huge in number, but still, they came to Mongoloid people possess. Now we come to physical features. What are they? Yellow complexion. Because they come from China, their skin color is going to be pale yellow. Ours is whitish. Dravidians a little bit black. Aryans fair. So we are comparing the physical features. Yes, so they have yellow complexion, flat face, just as the Chinese have. Yes, but the physical features of Mongolian people, they are quite harsher than the Chinese. So they will have a big face, yes, and they will have a flat face, but they will have chubby cheeks coming outside. Yes, almond shaped eyes is the beauty of the Mongoloid tribe. Yes, they have beautifully exact almond shaped eyes. These 4 things, they are the physical features. What are they? Yellow complexion, flat face, chubby cheeks, almond shape. They had yellow complexion, so Mongoloids were called Kirit. Maybe in that day, in those times, the yellow complexion color of the skin was known as Kirit. So very important to remember. Mongoloid people, they were called Kirit by the locals. This is a pic of the Mongoloid tribe. You can see even the child, quite chubby chicks. Yes, they have a flat nose which does not come out in between the forehead and the line that is created between the forehead and the mouth. Yes, our nose is protruding outside, whereas you can see over here they have a flat face. Next are three tribes, Alpine, the Naraka and Armonite tribes. They are clubbed together because they didn't come in that much huge number, but then the number was quite big. The people of these tribes migrated from central of Asia. Now, if you see the map, if you consider the whole of the Asian continent, then from central China, central Asia, that means most of the parts are forming on the lower side of China. So all these three tribes have similarities. The origin, genes of these tribes. Now, these tribes, when they settled in India, mingled with the people of India, Indianized themselves, we find traces of genes of these people in these particular parts of the country. Which are they? Large number: Gujarat, Saurashtra, Maharashtra, Bengal and Odisha, formerly known as Orissa. That's okay. But the genes of these people can be found of Alpine, Dinaric and Armonite tribes. They can be found in Gujarat, Saurashtra, Maharashtra, Bengal and Odisha. You find people today having similarity with the Alpine, Dinaric and the Armonite tribe. Now let us look at the picture so that it becomes clear to you. Yes, Alpine, Dinaric and the Armonite tribe people look like this. These are the physical features. Yes, the photo may be say 200 years old, but the physical feature match with the original Alpine, Dinaric and the Armonite tribe. Now we come to the important tribe that came from outside in very huge number, that is Aryans. The Nordic Aryans. Yes, the Nordic Aryans, if you learned in the 9th standard properly, the Second World War, Hitler started with it and he considered his race, the Nordic Aryans, as one of the purest race in the world, and that is that race we are talking about. So this tribe comes from center of Europe. The Nordic Aryans, one of the subspecies of Aryans, that is Nordic Aryans, were the creators of Aryan civilization. Now two civilization we are talking about. Mohenjo-Daro civilization, that is the Indus Valley civilization, was created by the Dravidians. After the Dravidians left that area of western north and shifted towards south, a new culture was developed by the Aryans. That culture is known as Aryan civilization. So Aryans are the creators of the Aryan civilization. We started calling Hindus Aryans, we started calling them Hindus. Hindus were called Aryans in the ancient time. If you're talking about Aryans, then basically you're talking about Hindus. And the area where they lived densely, that populated the area, that area was known as Aryavarta. Wherever Aryans lived, that region was known as Aryavarta. As 7 rivers were flowing over there. Which are the 7 rivers? The 5 tributaries of river Indus, the Yamuna and the Ganga, whole of that area. As 7 rivers were flowing over there, that region was known as Sapta Sindhu, which is very, very important. Sapta Sindhu. We have Indus river itself, then we have the 5 rivers. Actually that is 4. One of the river dumps its water into yet another tributary. So we have 4 rivers over there. So the Indus river plus 4 rivers, that is the tributaries of Indus, making it 5 plus 2 rivers, that is Yamuna and Ganga. That 5 area, the area in between those 5 rivers, 7 rivers, that is known as Sapta Sindhu, and that is where sorry, the Aryans settled, and that is how they are known as the Aryavarta, or the Aryan civilization settled in Sapta Sindhu. The area of Aryavarta. Now what is the extent of Aryavarta? Mithila. If you go to the eastern side, Mithila is the last point. From there you start coming to the west. Yes, we have that Sapta Sindhu area. So from Sapta Sindhu area to Mithila in Bihar, in the east, now we have to say a little bit downwards also. Yes, up to Vindhyas. Vindhyas are in the center. Vindhya range is in the center. So we call them Vindhyachal, right? So up till Vindhyachal. Below Vindhyachal, we have the MP, and after MP we start with Maharashtra and the south of India. So till there. So from Sapta Sindhu to Vindhyas and at the end Mithila. They were more advanced people than any other contemporary tribes. Yes, they came when the Dravidians were already living. They came when the Negrito people, Alpine, Naraka, all these people were astrologers. They were already living in India. When they came to India, they came from Europe and they were considered quite advanced. Now, quite advanced in which way? Whether that is religion, whether that is weapons, whether that is way of living. Yes, all of that. They were quite far more advanced than all the tribes that were living in India put together. So they were more advanced people than any other contemporary tribe. The vast land was recognized with various names. Wherever they settled, wherever they started living, whole of that land called Aryavrata. Then they had another name after that. When they settled, kingdoms came up, right? Whole of that was known as by different name. First one is Bharat Bhumi, second is Bharat Khand, third is Bharat Varsha, etc. There are lots of names, yes, that we have learnt earlier also, after the name of the king. Now from a tribe, they settled and started having kings and queens and kingdoms. Then whole of the tribe came to be known as after one of the most influential king of that time, that is Aryabharat. King Arya, Aryan, Arya. King Aryabharat or Bharat or Bharatkul tribe. So after this name, whole of the area was known. Which are the names? Bharat Bhumi, Bharat Khand and Bharat Varsha. Aryans were nature lovers. They loved and worshipped the trees, rivers. We already discussed that. All the natural elements, they worshipped the trees, the rivers, the mountains, the sun, the wind god and the rain god. And they were considered as the first people who composed hymns or ritas for praying to various natural elements. They produced, for example, Arti is the gift given to us by the Dravidians. Then ritas and hymns that are made in Sanskrit language, that is the gift of the Aryans to our civilization. In due course of time, some religious ceremony, now Sanskrit was already there, right? That became the language of the learned people, and ritas and hymns had already been composed. Now slowly in course of time, some religious ceremonies started taking place, and those religious ceremonies, recitation of Vedas, which are already written, performing yajna properly with the proper custom, tradition, and some proceedings and other activities slowly came into existence and prevalent in India. Now this is the route, we know, this is Europe all the way. They must have taken a round tour of the Caspian Sea, or below that they must have just reached. Because if we see, these are the Arab countries. From here the Negritos migrated opposite side from Europe, just above the plateau of Iran. This is Iraq, this is Iran, and then entered into India. This is here flows the Indus. So they must have come over here, and both the entry points are given. Whether at both the areas you have to cross Indus River, right? So if you cross over here, you come to the 5 tributaries of Indus River, and then you come to river Ganga, Yamuna, and you come up to Vindhyas over here. And if you come to the south, today's Pakistan, touching to Pakistan is Gujarat. So these are the areas where they settled, whole of this area. Because here is the part of the Dravidians. They were forced to enter. So rest of the places will find the Aryans. This is how the Aryans look like: fair skin, somewhere blue or green eyes. These are the physical features, yes, of the Aryans. Many tribes like Negrito, now Indianization, how we got Indianized, right? How those tribes got Indianized. We were already, the Drabidians and rest of the tribes, they were already reading. Apart from that, the Negrito, Australoid, Dravidian, Aryans, they came from outside, Alpine, the Naraka, Armonite, they came to India, right? How did they get Indianized? All these tribes had their own culture and traditions. There was a fine amalgamation. Amalgamation means mixture of those tribes with their specific style of living, and harmonious culture was found. They came here because conditions in their country was not good, from wherever they came, from whichever area. When they came over here, they found peace, they found prosperity, so they mixed with the tribes living in India very much, and they harmonized themselves. They also did not want war and fighting and all that. They wanted to have a peaceful living, coexisting. So a very good harmonious culture was formed, which gave India quite glorious and prosperous heritage. Now, how did that happen? These foreign and Indian tribes amalgamated, mixed in such a way that over a period you cannot tell the difference who belongs to which tribe, because by intermarriage, boy of one tribe, girl of one tribe, or girl of one tribe, boy of another tribe, they marry, yes, and then the genes also get mixed up, the customs, tradition. So after 500 years it becomes impossible to say who is who, in such a way that over a period of time they lost their individual identity and became Indian because of intercaste marriage, which we discussed earlier. Outsiders and local people were greatly influenced by language, script, names, religious beliefs, etc. When they came to India, of course, theirs is different, ours is different. They got very much greatly influenced by whatever we had. We also got influenced by them. So there was a very fine mixture. We accepted whatever was there. They accepted whatever was ours. Played a vital role in Indianizing these foreigners. This is a complete 2 or 3 marks question. Each aspect of Indian heritage made India eye-catching, more picturesque and attractive. Heritage brought glory to the nation. We should respect our heritage because this heritage has brought India lots of glory. India attained a leading position in the world by keeping its rich heritage preserved, protected and well kept. So, we are talking about preservation and conservation of our heritage. Preserve, conserve. Preserve to protect. Conserve not only to protect but keep it continuous for the next generations to follow. Thus, it is the primary and pious, quite moral duty, pious, moral, sacred duty of every citizen to see that nobody harms the ancient memorials. They have been built 200 years ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago. Some of them are built in 1st and 2nd century. Even before that, whatever timing at which they were made, constructed, that is a rich heritage passed to us, and it becomes our duty. First thing is, it becomes our duty not to harm it. Second is our duty to let no other person harm it. And also to preserve places having historical importance and values. The fundamental duties of the Indian citizens are also mentioned in our constitution. The constitution gives us 2 things. First thing is our rights, second thing is our duty. घर में रहते हो, घर में भी राइट्स होते हैं, ड्यूटी होती है. घर में हमेशा राइट कम होते हैं, ड्यूटी ज़्यादा होती है. सेम वे इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में भी राइट्स है, कम है, ड्यूटीज ज़्यादा है. Right? One of that duty, Article 15A. Constitution, whole of that. How to find a particular thing in the Constitution? So each of these things have been given the name of article. Article, then the number. And the paragraphs following it, 15A. Yes? 15A pertaining to one topic, 51B pertaining to another topic, 51C might be a totally different thing. So 51A. The paragraphs given below 51A, they are numbered. So para 6, 7 and 9. These are very important in terms of heritage, because some duties to preserve and conserve the heritage is given in this particular article 51A under the paragraphs 6, 7 and 9. What are they? To understand the importance of our harmonious culture, prosperity and to preserve it. To understand. We live in the society, you come to school, you learn about all that thing, so you have an understanding what is the value of that heritage. Yes, to understand the importance of the harmonious culture that we are living in, the prosperity which that culture has given us, and it becomes our duty to preserve it. That is given in para 6. What is given in para 7? This is para 7. Article 51A, para 7. We are asked to maintain the forest, tanks, rivers, ponds. It's not only duty of the central government, it's not only the duty of the state government, but if we are living in that area or if we go to visit any other area, then it is our duty to maintain the forest, not harm it. Tanks are the kund that are made in the earlier days. Rivers, ponds, not to dirty it, right? And protect the wild animals, see that they are not harmed, and the birds, along with maintaining the natural environment of that place, to show compassion, that means feelings for all the living creatures. That is our holy and pious duty, right? That is article 51 para 7. This is article 51A para 8. The protection of public property and giving up violence is also included in. If you are caring about the non-living or the living, then it is our duty to protect public property in whichever way, whether it is just a bus stand or a garden or a forest. It's a public property. It belongs to the government. It's a public property, right? It's our duty to protect it. And at the same time, some spiritual sense, like giving up violence, is because India has always remained a trade-oriented country. India has always remained a peace-loving country. We have prosperity because we have peace. We are not aggressive. We are peace-loving people. And our culture has taught us non-violence. With the help of non-violence, we got freedom. So, giving up violence is also included in it. So, with this, we complete our today's lecture. Thank you, students.